Sweeny, Tiki, and Tierney, welcome back, bud. How are you?
Hello, fellas. How we doing today?
We are good. Fantastic. How disappointed inside of the clubhouse is this Yankees squad?
Yeah, I mean, very, and it's the same answer all the time. I mean, the players go in every year. You talk to them first day in February that you start spring training, and they're talking about the World Series, and that's always what they're talking about. They've come up short, so, yeah, very disappointed for sure.
Now, how much of the fan and I guess media's calls for change is going to actually happen? Do you think?
Sweeping across the board changes, I'd say probably not. There's always some incremental changes, but if you're talking specifically about Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone, I don't see, I'm not reading those tea leaves that way. There have been, Aaron Boone was just signed to a new contract last year, right?
It's just money, though. I'm not even worried about that. So I get why people say that. Oh, he just signed it. Who cares? He's underperformed. We know that.
Well, but my reasoning for that, though, Tiki, is like you knew you were going to have to go through the Astros, right, if you wanted to win this year. So, and you knew that there was a chance you'd lose. So if you get to the ALCS, win 99 games, win a playoff series, get to the ALCS, and you lose to the Astros, like that was always a reasonable outcome. So you're probably not firing Aaron Boone over that outcome. Like if he had
was it to get to the
90
ALCS or was it to beat the Astros in the ALCS?
Well, of course, no. I'm saying the goal is, but that doesn't mean like I'm not saying his job status hinges on that one result.
Yeah.
If they had gone backwards this year from 92 wins and all that stuff, and then you say, okay, well, what's happening here? But I don't think they went backwards with the. It just was not the desired result. Brian Cashman status is that his contract is up. And there are no visible signs in the organization that Hal Steinbrenner is unhappy with Brian Cashman's job performance. Is he unhappy that they lost? Well, yeah, but he's hired Brian Cashman back several times, and at no point has he indicated that he's unhappy with the way he goes about his job. So I would love to be able to tell fans who want them that a certain result to happen that a certain result is happening, but no. I'm not seeing that at this point.
Okay, so the Boone stuff to me, that's like, ordering a $60 steak and saying the asparagus is a little salty. I'm not worried about Boone at this point. I'm worried about Cashman. And to me, and I hear what you said about Hal, and I've said it a few times. I know the morning show, they have it as a drop, but I've been saying this for a long time on the Fan, at least since I've been here, right, which is only a year, but I'm on the record for about a year. Brian Cashman has not earned the right to rebuild this team, in my opinion. Now, people could challenge that statement. That's fine. Here's my reasons, all right? He's been given 3 different cracks at beating the Astros, and cheating scandals aside, it's 3 completely different rosters. The 17 team had the young kids. The 19 team had a combination of Stanton's here, LeMahieu, Tanaka's still here, Paxton, that didn't work. And then this year's a mishmash. Injuries aside, it's a complete roster of spare parts that don't add up. So I'm going to ask you, forget about what you think Hal is going to do. In your opinion, because I told you mine, why do you think that Brian Cashman deserves the right to rebuild this team? Because I don't.
One, I don't think they're rebuilding, first of all.
Okay.
You're not, when people talk about rebuilding, they're talking about cleaning house and doing this and that. I mean, you're talking about you have to re-sign Aaron Judge, first of all, okay? And let's just assume, for argument's sake, let's assume you're re-signing Aaron Judge, and we can get into all that more.
Yep.
But Judge, Stanton, Cole, all here over $100 million locked up in just those 3 guys. You've got a lot of other pieces that are here. Like, it's not total rebuild. If I'm telling you, you're right. We're talking about opinion based. I'm just telling you, what I'm reading as facts right now from what they do and how they operate. It's not a rebuild. And I know that's hard for people to understand.
Well, maybe it needs to be. Maybe that's the whole point.
Okay, but how? But it's really hard to rebuild it when you've got already so much money committed to certain players and certain things. Here's my question for you, BT. Okay, if we're going to go down this road, one, if you hire somebody else, what exactly do you want them to do with what's already in place? Because you're not starting from scratch.
Yep. Well, I think it's a broader issue, and Sween, my big problem with the Yankees has been player development. And I know that that's not just Cashman. Trust me, it's a collaborative effort. You draft certain players. It's group thought. We like this guy. We don't. We get him in the minors. We teach him the Yankee way. The problem is, by the time they get to the majors, the Yankee way is not working. And to me, the fall guy should be Cashman. Like, if Cashman if he had a year to go on his deal, I would say, all right, you know what? Let him finish out. But now we're at a point where you are now granting him multiple more years of belief, and I think that that's reckless.
All right, let me play this out with you, okay?
Yeah.
I've got a name that I heard from somebody over the weekend that I said, oh, that's interesting. You want Brian Cashman to go. Who do you want to take his place?
I'll take Billy Beane. I'll take Theo Epstein. I'll take a couple of different people. There's two for you.
Okay. Billy Beane's always run on a $30 million budget, right? And has not won anything.
But now before you keep going, but think
about if you're talking about the end result is winning.
No,
okay?
I get that. But when you win, and he's won 90 games many times with an A's team, that so what would he do with $200 million?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's that's an Andrew Friedman question, right?
Gotcha,
Andrew Friedman ran the Rays, and you say, what's he going to do with the Dodgers payroll? Okay, well, the Dodgers have won one World Series in the 60-game season. Is that an acceptable result to you?
It's more acceptable than the Yankees' result.
Okay, but it's also this year winning 111 games and then going home. That's that model too. So there's no guarantees there. Theo Epstein, I think one of the big criticisms for Brian Cashman is people say like he's leaned too far towards analytics. I mean Theo Epstein, ran the Red Sox and the Cubs through analytical revolutions to get to those things. So that part isn't changing. If you want to change the names and move the seats around at the table, I understand that. The name that I heard that's kind of interesting was, and it made more sense if you think about who the Rangers just hired as their manager, was Bruce Bochy. Brian Sabian was the general manager of the Giants for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
Helped them win 3 World Series in a 5-year stretch. He's kind of he's still on their payroll, but he's not really running the show anymore. So he's kind of an advisory type of role there. That name sounded interesting to me because here's somebody who's a little bit more, from the scouting background, old school background, but obviously has had to play in the analytics field as everybody in this game does now. So my question to everybody who says fire him, says hire this guy, okay, what's the answer? You gave me a couple. That was it. When I asked the question over the weekend to some people that I trust, and that was a name that I found that was very interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going there. I think Brian Cashman's coming back.
Sweeny, there's 4 things that we think should happen, and obviously the 2 we've already discussed with Cashman and Boone. The other one is paying Aaron Judge the fair offer, or the above fair offer is really what it should be. Otherwise, he may end up someplace else. But the other one is Hal, and Hal's commitment to doing whatever it takes to win a championship. Now, they're going to be really good in the regular season all the time. Now, the division might get better and then may struggle and they have to be in a wild card, but they're always going to be in a playoff conversation. Do you get the sense that Hal is tired of just being great in the regular season and bad in the post?
Yeah, I don't think he enjoys losing these playoff series and wakes up saying, okay, hey, it's all right. I know this is,
but is he pissed off about it? Is he
tired of it?
I don't
is he
know.
feeling the same thing that
Doesn't seem like he's tired of
fans
it.
are feeling?
I don't know. But here's my question, and I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to ask him this. Okay, but you look around this and say, the Yankees used to be the team that spent far and above everybody else. Okay,
correct.
And they could at one point, even very recently, say we're still spending more than other teams. That's not the case anymore, okay? The Mets this year, if you look at total payroll numbers, and I'm getting this off of spotrack.com, and the total payroll is the 40-man roster plus all the extras that they load into what is the luxury tax payroll, not just the guys you're paying on the Major League roster, right? Mets are at 282. The Dodgers are 275. The Yankees are 264. The Phillies are 255. The Padres are 237, okay? That's a lot of other teams right in that same neighborhood, and 2 of them who have gone over. So as you get into this area where you're going to have to commit big dollars to Aaron Judge, the answer nobody wants to hear is, okay, here's what we're paying Aaron Judge, and now we're not spending more than that. There's a formula here that shows you of who's spending money, and all these high payroll teams are in the playoffs and deep into the playoffs. And, the Astros are a little bit farther down, but only because they let Springer and Correa walk, or else they'd be much higher in this thing too. They're at $192 million. But I think that's the important question here is that there was a point in this game when the Yankees could easily outspend everybody and did. And now there's a handful of teams that are in the same ballpark. Are we going to find a place where the Yankees are willing to outspend everybody again?
Well, I mean,
and is Steve Cohen going to push that button? Because now you got somebody in your backyard who's trying to do these things, and we'll see how he responds this winter and what this actually does to the owners' rivalry, which never was really a thing before.
I got to tell you, though, Sweeny, there's a couple of methodologies to winning, developing young players and calling them up and signing them early, like the Braves have done, even though they got knocked out.
Atlanta also has a $200 million payroll.
Okay, I understand that, but it's not 270. It's but the Padres.
But it will be soon.
Of course it will be. But the Padres went all in, right? They spent all this money, and they let it be. And it was clearly their ownership. I don't know if it was specifically an owner. Their ownership saying, "Look, we are committed to bringing the best players so that when it gets to the postseason, we have a chance to win." And it's worked. The Phillies did the same thing. Think of all those guys they brought in.
Okay, but now the
Yankees just haven't done it.
But we're holding the Padres to a different standard now. If the Yankees had done the moves the Padres made and still got wiped out in the championship series,
but they wouldn't have. They wouldn't
How do you know? The Padres just did.
No, but
the Padres just did. And if the Yankees had done the exact same thing, sign Manny Machado, trade for Juan Soto, and all these things, and gotten wiped out in 5 games by a team that didn't even win 90 games in the regular season, we would say the same thing.
I mean, maybe. But the problem is the Phillies did this. They were the same.
Definitely.
Right?
We'd want everybody fired.
The Phillies did. My point is the Phillies spent a ton of money this offseason.
Correct. Yes.
So did the Padres. So it was just
spending and listen, and I'll tell you, what the Yankees are going to say is we spent more than they did.
They did it effectively.
The Yankees will say we spent more than they did.
Yeah, but they bring in a 37-year-old Josh Donaldson of a trade. I know you had to get Gary Sanchez off your roster.
He got old at 36. Let's not give him an extra year.
It looked like he was 56. By the way, here's the big issue. I was talking to Sweeny Murti with us on the Fan Tiki and Tierney show. So 20-plus years, all right? And, again, you can't take away the championship. We all enjoyed it. We were at the parade. I had a blast. It was an awesome year, 2009. But, you talk about Yankee payroll. The disparity that year, Yankees still were the highest spending team in the sport back then. They spent $66 million more than anybody in baseball because they spent $250 million on CeCe Sabathia, Teixeira, and A.J. Burnett. So my point here's my...
Are you willing to do that again at some point?
Hold on. But the key to me is this is a 20-plus year evaluation of Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman has not shown he can win a World Series unless he severely outpays or pays more than other teams. I mean, how many chances
you could say that about the Yankees for 27 World Series, every one of the Yankees World Series championships. I mean, you could say the Yankees did that. It's not.
But it's
just
amplified.
Put it on 2009.
Yeah. I hear you, but it's
the Yankees have been the Yankees for a long time.
I understand that, and trust me, we've both been fans, and we grew. I've been a fan for. I get it. I understand the history of the Yankees. What I'm saying is the most recent snapshot of the Yankee history to me. It's they have no identity. They want to be the big bad bully Yankees, but they don't want to spend to do it.
And they're not there.
They're not there, and they got punked 3 times in a row by a team that does things better, more effectively, and the rosters the Yankees trotted out against the Astros were basically 3 different rosters. So Cashman, forget about the Red Sox and the Rays and everybody else. He had 3 swings at the Houston Astros. 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3, swept.
Yeah.
How do you justify bringing him back?
Yeah, and listen, if you want to do that to make the change, I get it. I understand that.
Do you think that I'm unfair with that? Do you think that I'm unfair? I know that you're a reporter, but do you think I'm unfair?
I think everything runs in a cycle at some point, right? At some point, somebody decided Joe Torre, his time was up. At some point, somebody decided Joe Girardi, his time was up.
Correctly.
Somebody wants to decide.
Yeah, incorrectly with Joe.
I'm talking about with the Phillies. Correctly.
Well, I guess.
Well, yes. Yeah. If you want to talk about that Brian Cashman's time is up, it's a reasonable argument, and everything you cited is true.
Okay.
I can't dispute that.
Gotcha.
And I'm sitting there looking at the idea that, but this is why, and we've gotten, he doesn't make himself available that often. We've gotten Hal Steinbrenner to speak to us as a group once last year.
I mean, that's ridiculous. That alone is ridiculous.
That doesn't, and I don't know when he's going to do this. I'll tell you one thing. I find this kind of fascinating when because the argument always comes back to, well, Georgia do this and Georgia do that, and
Yeah, that's getting old. I don't even want to hear that anymore.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah,
but I found Hal's answer to a question about that really interesting last year, because I asked him specifically about it because it was mid-season and about how his father used to fire people, used to do things. And his answer was a little window into, you don't have to be Freud to figure this out, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He said, one, the things his father didn't always work.
True.
And two, they were always met with a lot of criticism,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So the rash, fly by the seat of your pants, fire this guy, bring in that guy, that backfired many times when it happened,
Mm-hmm.
and Hal was paying attention. Teenage Hal Steinbrenner saw it all happen to his father, and I'm sure what he witnessed probably paints a little bit of how he decided he wanted to run his ownership.
I think that's very. Go ahead, T.
I was going to say, but history views George very favorably.
But sometimes unfairly in terms of being favorable. We embellish
doesn't
a bit.
matter,
George
but-
was a complete pain in the ass for a lot of
course
the
it
run
was,
here, to be fair.
But doesn't history matter?
Yeah, well, it does. And the championships are all that matter, really,
It
T.
paints
Yeah.
it paints him favorably because of how you saw him in his later years and when he eventually passed away. Like in the moment, history. I mean, the man was banned from the sport twice,
Which saved the Yankees. That's why they were rebuilt. Everybody knows that. Sween, we got to get moving. But I think the biggest issue for me is that, and Freudian, I'm sure he saw what his dad went through, and he kind of changes things purposely to avoid kind of replicating those problems. I get that. There's a dynamic at play there that I find very interesting psychologically. But what I think Yankee fans take away is that winning was oxygen for George. He needed winning, or at least the pursuit of winning, to breathe, and Hal does not seemingly care about winning the way his pops did, and it drives us nuts.
I think it was nice slogan because I think you were also at a point in time in the business of baseball where there were several other owners who really didn't care at all and weren't going to spend anywhere close to what George Steinbrenner did, and they knew that. They knew it was futile, and they weren't trying at all. We're currently living in a system now where you've got a lot of owners who have a lot of money that they're pocketing and aren't coming close to trying.
Yeah.
You look at all these teams that get revenue sharing money,
Sure.
and things like that, and lose 100 games every year. There was a lot of that happening then too. I think you found teams back then that just weren't trying.
All right, well, listen, we got to run. Here's what we'll do. We'll get you on later in the week just to have a judge conversation.
Yeah.
Contract, but you okay with
I'm
that?
sure
Good?
there's going to be a the Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman season ender, and
Sure.
we can all react off of that and
Perfect.
talk about Judge.
Thank you, Sweet.
Thank you, Sweeney.
Awesome job. And by the
Thanks,
way,
fellas.
I did listen to you on the radio Saturday coming back for the game. Well done.
Thanks for stopping by to say hi. I
Well,
appreciate it.
listen, I had ice cream to get for my little guy, man.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, don't argue with the ice cream. I get it. Thanks. Yeah. Hey, and the new BXB is up with me and Keith. It's on there now.
I love it. I meant to give you a plug, but I'm so busy screaming and ranting and raving like a lunatic.
It's all good, man.
All right, dude.